Why are some people consistently optimistic? Chapter 1. The Anatomy of a Sunny Mind. On a Monday morning that smelled faintly of burnt espresso and wet pavement, two people stood beneath the same gray sky and experienced two different worlds. The first, a woman named Mara, watched the bus splash through a puddle and soak the cuffs of her jeans. The second, an older man named Theo, watched the same bus and said, half smiling, "At least the driver's awake." Mara felt the day was ruined. Theo felt the day had started. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to wake up inside sunlight while others wake up inside weather, consider this. The sky is the same for both. It is the lens, not the world, that changes the picture. Optimism is not a denial of rain. It's the decision to bring an umbrella and the curiosity to notice the rainbow when it arrives. But this decision doesn't spring from nowhere. It has roots, biological, psychological, social, and practical, and it grows through habits that can be learned. This chapter is a map of those roots. It is not a sermon about thinking positive or a promise that you can smile your way out of hardship. Optimists bleed. They fail, lose, and grieve like everyone else. Their difference is a method. They tell a particular kind of story about events. They direct attention like a conductor. They tune their bodies as if optimism were a form of fitness. They belong to cultures and relationships that reward possibility. And they keep a toolkit for the storm. We will move through these elements one by one: story, attention, body, belonging, action, like rooms in a house. Along the way, you may hear echoes of your own life. If you do, linger there. That's where your practice begins. 1. The story we tell. How some minds explain the world. When something goes wrong, your project stalls, a friend ghosts you, the flight gets cancelled, your mind automatically writes a headline. This always happens to me. I'm not cut out for this. People are unreliable. A different mind writes a different headline. Bad day, not a bad life. I wasn't prepared, but I can learn. It fell through. What's plan B? These headlines are not cosmetic. They determine what you do next. They decide whether you try again, try differently, or stop trying. Consistent optimists tend to explain setbacks in 3 specific ways: temporary rather than permanent, not always, but now; specific rather than universal, not everything, but this part; influenceable rather than helpless, not nothing I can do, but here's my lever. Think of it as an internal weather report. A pessimistic headline says the storm is permanent, everywhere, and God-controlled. An optimistic headline says the storm is passing, local, and at least partly human-controlled. The second outlook doesn't guarantee sunshine. It guarantees search for options, allies, experiments. Optimism is the belief that there is something useful one can do next. This explanatory style isn't mere cheerleading. It's an operating system, and like any system, it can be updated. The practice is simple, not easy. Catch your headline, challenge it, and choose a more accurate version that preserves your ability to act. This always happens, rarely tells the truth. This sometimes happens when I rush, and rushing is in my control tells a truer, more optimistic story because it returns the steering wheel to your hands. 2. The attention we train, where optimists aim their eyes. Imagine your attention as a camera with 2 dials. Salience, what you notice first, and dwell time, how long you stare. Some people have trained these dials, deliberately, or by accident, to catch possibility without ignoring risk. They spot the one email of praise in a stack of dull messages. They notice the door ajar in a hallway of closed ones. They register the one person in the meeting whose head is nodding, not just the one whose arms are crossed. They are not blind to danger, they simply refuse to be hypnotized by it. In the wild, this attention pattern looks like a small habit, a morning ritual of asking, what might go right today? A few minutes at night, listing what didn't go wrong. 10 breaths to relocate the body during panic. A question in conflict, what are you trying to protect? That searches for the good intention behind messy behavior. Over months and years, these micro-acts thicken the neural pathways that carry attention to possibility. The brain becomes a better noticer of workable angles. Notice what this is not. It is not ignoring pain, erasing injustice, or sugarcoating reality. It is a refusal to let your attention become a hostage. Optimists know the cost of staring. Stare at the worst for too long, and it becomes the only thing you can see. Stare at the best exclusively, and you miss the pothole. The sunny mind is not a spotlight fixed on hope. It is a swiveling lamp that keeps lighting the next patch of ground so you can walk. The body we carry, biology as soil, not destiny. Some mornings feel heavier because they are. Sleep debt, inflammation, poor nutrition, isolation. These are biological weights on perspective. If your brain is the stage for thought, your body is the backstage crew. lifting and lowering each scene. Optimists, especially those who stay optimistic across seasons of stress, respect this. They protect the basics because they know how quickly the mind's lens fogs when the body's needs are neglected. Consider 3 levers that almost every long-haul optimist guards fiercely. Sleep like a craftsman, not a gambler. They treat bedtime as an appointment with tomorrow's clarity. Move daily, even briefly. They understand that motion is a message to the nervous system. You are not stuck. Feed the future. They eat in a way that keeps energy steady and moods less hostage to sugar crashes. Does biology sometimes tilt the playing field? Absolutely. Some people are born with brains that run hotter, react faster, or sink deeper. Yet even here, optimism acts like strength training. A person with a lower baseline can still gain muscle. The workouts are the same: sleep, movement, breath, perspective, connection, even if the weight feels heavier at first. The point is not to become invincible. The point is to become influenceable by your own good choices. 4. The company we keep. Optimism is contagious. Optimism is social. Stand near a calm person, and your breathing changes. Work with a leader who asks, "What would it take?" And you begin to ask it too. Spend your evenings in a group chat that delights in mockery and doom, and you will feel your spine bend. We are herd animals, mimicking without permission. Many consistently optimistic people curate their inputs with intention. They seek friends who laugh without cruelty. They move toward colleagues who brainstorm instead of blamestorm. They tune their feeds to show examples of persistence rather than catastrophe. This is not insulation from the world, it is nutrition for participating in it. They understand that their attention is a commons and choose co-stewards carefully. If you want a quick audit, open your messages and scroll. Which names leave you taller? Which names leave you smaller? You are not obligated to be available to every broadcast tower. You are allowed to adjust the dials. 5. The practice they keep. Small acts of agency. There is a practical streak running through the sunny mind. It collects tactics like a carpenter collects tools. Here are 5 that surface again and again in the lives of resilient optimists. The yet reflex. When faced with "I can't do this," they add a single syllable, yet. It turns a verdict into a process. The 2-column truth. On paper, left column, facts I cannot change today. Right column, levers I can pull in the next hour. Both are true, but only one is actionable. The pre-mortem. Before launching a plan, they ask, if this failed spectacularly, what likely caused it? Then they shore up those weak points. Optimism with seatbelts. The 5-minute start. When dread swells, they shrink the task to 5 minutes and begin. Motion breeds hope. The gratitude reframe. Not a vague tally of blessings, but a specific, because the train was late. I had 10 minutes to review my notes. Which trains the eye to find utility in inconvenience. These practices don't change the weather, they change the walker. Purpose. The engine under the hood. Optimism without purpose, phrase. It becomes a performance for others, or a script you can't believe when the room is empty. People who stay optimistic year after year tend to anchor it in something larger than moodcraft, service, faith, a mission that outlives the day's troubles. Purpose shifts the question from, how do I feel about this? To, what does this call me to do? It turns difficulty into data. Picture a nurse on the night shift, at 3 a.m. Fluorescent lights buzzing, the room growing strange with fatigue. She is tired. But in the pocket of her scrubs are 3 cards. Notice, name, normalize. When a panicked family member arrives, she notices the body language, names the emotion, "You look terrified," and normalizes the reaction. Anyone would be. These are small acts, but they come from a larger vow to be a steady lantern in a flickering room. The vow carries her through when motivation is scarce. Optimism here is not a feeling. It is a way of keeping a promise. Early scripts, later revisions. Some people are born into houses where optimism is a first language. Parents model effort over excuses, wonder over cynicism, and repair after conflict. Children absorb the template. Others are born into houses wired for alarm. They inherit worry like a family heirloom. The point is not to compare childhoods, it is to notice that early scripts whisper loud. If your inheritance tilts you toward gloom, optimism may require more deliberate practice, but that practice is available. One powerful tool is reparenting your explanatory voice. Imagine the voice that narrates your life belongs to a coach who deeply wants you to grow. Would that coach say, "You always mess up"? Or would they say, "You rush that. Slow down on the setup next time. You'll get it"? The second voice does not flatter. It instructs. Optimism speaks that language. Risk, reality, and the optimist's seatbelt. A common caricature warns that optimism is reckless, that it blinds you to hazards, and leaves you broke, heartbroken, and surprised by obvious outcomes. That caricature exists because denial exists. But stable optimists are not deniers, they are realists with bias toward action. They run pre-mortems and red teams. They play with, what if this goes wrong? In the planning phase, so they can play with, what if this goes right? In execution. Consider a small business owner opening a second location. The pessimist says, it will never work. The naive optimist says, it can't fail. The practiced optimist says, let's model 3 scenarios, build a runway for the worst, and design triggers for when to pivot. One sees a cliff. One sees a meadow. One sees a path with guardrails. The third is the person you want to invest in. Ordinary lives. Ordinary lives. Extraordinary lenses. The runner. A woman trains for a marathon and injures her knee 6 weeks out. The initial headline is grief. All that work for nothing. Her coach asks for a new headline. You train towards something, not for nothing. They rebuild. Pool running. Upper body strength. Breath work. On race day she volunteers at a water station and cheers strangers through their pain. 2 years later, injury-free, she crosses the line herself. The optimistic story didn't erase loss. It turned the season into a teacher and preserved her relationship with her sport. The student, a teenager, fails a math test and wants to quit the advanced class. The school counselor draws 2 buckets, skill and strategy. Which bucket failed? They analyze. It wasn't intelligence, it was time management and weak foundational algebra. They build a plan, add 20 minutes of daily practice, and schedule peer tutoring. 2 months later, the grade climbs. The optimistic move wasn't believe in yourself. It was believe in the effect of practice. The father, laid off at 53, he feels humiliated. For 2 weeks he does nothing but scroll job boards in dread. Then he decides to treat the search like a project. 3 reach-outs per day, a portfolio of stories that demonstrate his value. Upgrading a rusty certification. He applies to fewer jobs but with sharper alignment. When an interview arrives, he has practiced how to tell his story not as a victim of market forces but as a builder who wants to keep building. He lands a role he wouldn't have noticed in week 1. Optimism here was an architecture of effort. The crisis room. Optimism at the edge. Optimism is easiest under blue skies. Its character shows in the storm. Imagine a hospital shift during a surge. Alarms everywhere. Supplies tight. Staff frayed. In that chaos, a charge nurse named Anna runs a micro-huddle every 4 hours. 3 questions only. What is the clearest threat in the next hour? What is one thing we can do right now that reduces fear? Who needs a break? Even a 5-minute one. This is not rah-rah. It is triage for morale. She calls it oxygen first. She reminds her team to put their own masks on. Sip water, stretch a back, laugh once if possible. She also documents tiny wins. A patient who slept, a family who smiled through tears, a new nurse who mastered a skill. At the end of the shift, she texts those wins to the team. The next day the work is just as hard, but the memory of capacity is alive. Optimism isn't claiming the fire is gone, it's remembering where the hose is and who you are when you hold it. 11. The 5 lenses. A pocket guide. If the sunny mind were a camera kit, it would contain 5 lenses, each designed for a different shooting condition. Time lens. Is this forever or just for now? Shrinks catastrophes to their true duration. Scope lens. Is this everything or just this thing? Keeps one failure from swallowing the sky. Control lens. What part is mine? Reclaims agency without assuming blame for the universe. Meaning lens. What could this teach? Minds the mess for instruction. Connection lens. Who can help and whom can I help? Transforms isolation into team. The craft is switching lenses deliberately. When panic blurs your vision, reach for the control lens. When shame tries to make a single mistake into an identity, reach for the scope lens. When grief drags the present into forever, reach for the time lens. This is not magical thinking. It is corrective thinking. Rituals that hold when willpower falls. No one has willpower every day. Optimists pre-install rituals for future tired versions of themselves. Sunday setup. 15 minutes to list 3 needle movers for the week. Morning, question. What's one courageous thing I can do before noon? Commute cue. Choose a signal turning the key, tapping your train card that triggers the thought. I can handle surprises. Evening sweep. Write 2 sentences. One about something that tested you and one about how you responded well. Archive proof that you are resilient. Quarterly. Reset. A brief retreat, an afternoon at a library, a long park walk to ask, is my ladder on the right wall? These rituals are boring on purpose. Boring is stable. Stable builds optimism the way steady reps build strength. 13. Culture and story at scale. Zoom out from the individual to the group. Teams, companies, neighborhoods, even nations hold shared beliefs about the future. Some cultures rehearse disaster so often it becomes a strange comfort. Others rehearse possibility until trying seems normal. Neither culture is fully right. Both are partially true, but one produces more experiments, and experiments are how good things happen. You can be a culture maker in miniature. In your family, you can normalize apologies, gratitude, and iterative problem solving. In your team, you can shift the debrief from "who messed up" to "what did the system make likely?" In your circle of friends, you can celebrate attempts, not only outcomes. Optimism becomes policy. 14. The limits of sunshine and why they matter. Let's be honest. There are injuries optimism can't heal, and injustices optimism must fight. There are days when look on the bright side is a violence because it demands performance instead of presence. Stable optimists don't force the light. They allow sorrow to be real, anger to be instructive, and rest to be sacred. They do not confuse optimism with speed. Here's a paradox that mature optimists understand. Acceptance and agency are friends. Acceptance says, "This is the truth." Agency asks, "Given this truth, what now?" Skip acceptance and you live in fantasy. Skip agency and you live in despair. Hold both, and you live in reality with momentum. 15. A walk with Theo. Let's return to Theo, the man whose smile survived the bus splash. His optimism is not a trick of age. It is 1,000 small bets. He started 40 years ago when his first child was born. He was an anxious young father then, checking the crib every 10 minutes to make sure the baby was breathing. His wife taught him to count the rise and fall like blessings. He learned to make lists during layoffs, to call friends before fear got loud, to take long walks whenever the future felt small. He failed at a business once, and spent a decade embarrassed by it. Then, on a different walk, he realized the people he admired most had all failed publicly. He refiled the story from identity to tuition. When his knees began to ache, he didn't pretend otherwise. He got a cane he liked walnut, simple, handsome, and refused to give up his route. On rainy days he told himself the truth. "I don't enjoy being wet, but I enjoy being the kind of man who keeps his promise to his legs." That sentence is a small cathedral. It houses discipline, humor, and love in 12 words. If you could peer into his brain, you would not find a permanent sunshine machine. You would find a library of well-used sentences that face reality and carry him forward. Your turn, a tiny start. Take 1 minute. Think of something that's not going the way you want. Write down the current headline your mind is running. Now rewrite it with the 3 optimist edits. Make it temporary, specific, and influenceable. Then list one action you'll take in the next hour that is so small it feels slightly silly. Email one person. Watch a 5-minute tutorial. Fill a water bottle and place it on your desk. Step outside and let your eyes find the most distant thing they can see. Tell your nervous system, "We move." If you repeat this for a week, you will feel a slight loosening in the chest, a steadier hand reaching for the next lever, a quieter room inside your mind where you can hear the better headline. Optimism will not solve your life, but it will keep your life solvable. The sky may stay gray for a while. Bring your umbrella, bring your questions, and bring your lens. In the next chapter, we'll walk into the workshop itself, how to build and protect the habits that make optimism reliable. Not fickle, steady, not loud. For now, look up once more at the rain, the bus, the puddle, and choose your headline. The day is not ruined, the day has started. Chapter 2. The Workshop of Resilient Hope. In the first chapter we studied the architecture of a sunny mind, the story it tells, the attention it trains, the body it cares for, the people it surrounds itself with, and the practices it installs. Now we step inside the workshop. This is where optimism is not just felt but built, repaired, and protected when life throws gravel in the gears. If the first chapter asked, why are some people consistently optimistic? This one asks, how do they stay that way when it's no longer convenient? The answer is a craft. Simple tools, used regularly, under imperfect conditions. Think of your mind as a room with windows on all sides. Weather blows in news, noise, uncertainty, old memories with sharp edges. You can't shut the world out without shuttering the light. So you learn a different art. How to keep the windows open while securing the furniture. How to keep papers weighted. How to choose what sits near the draft. Optimism, done well, is not fragile decor. It's sturdy joinery. It's a table that doesn't wobble when the door bangs open. This chapter offers 10 benches in the workshop. Sit at each for a while. Try the tools. Keep what fits your hands. Bench 1. The 3-beat reset sense name. Next. Optimists don't always feel optimistic. They simply recover sooner. Their quickest repair is a 3-beat reset. Sense. Notice the body's alarm without arguing with it. Jaw tight. Heart fast. Stomach hot. Name. Put a simple word to the state. Fear, shame, anger, or overwhelm. Specificity lowers the temperature. The brain calms when it can label. Next. Ask a forward question that is small and physical. What's my next non-heroic move? Sip water. Open the window. Draft an outline. Text one friend. You can rehearse the reset during small annoyances so it's available during big ones. Burnt toast is practice for bad news. Missed trains are drills for career detours. The body learns you are a person who moves from sensation to naming to next step. Panic has fewer places to hide when you carry a flashlight and a to-do list. Bench 2. The Optimist's ledger facts. Interpretations. Levers. When life feels chaotic, write. Not a novel in accounting. Split a page into 3 columns. Facts. Client canceled Tuesday. I missed 2 workouts. I slept 5 hours. Facts do not include adjectives. Interpretations. The headlines your mind wants to run. Clients don't respect me. I'm lazy. This week is ruined. Levers. Things you can do in the next 24 hours that would improve the situation by even 1%. The goal is not to argue with reality or wallpaper over grief. It is to separate signal from spin and then reclaim agency. Optimists are careful accountants. They don't cook the books. They just refuse to let the story column masquerade as the fact column. And they always end the ledger with a lever, a place to apply pressure. If the lever feels too heavy, shrink it. A lever the size of a pencil still moves something. Bench 3. If-then plans, making hope automatic. When stress is high, willpower is low. The solution is to offload decisions in advance. Write, if-then plans. If I wake at 6:30 and want to scroll, then I stand up and drink a glass of water first. If I feel defensive in a meeting, then I breathe once and ask, can you say more about what concerns you? If I fail at step 1, then I begin again at the next opportunity. This is not rigidity. It is kindness to your future self. It spares you from negotiating with your weakest moment. Consistent optimists don't expect to be strong later. They leave themselves a note where future them will trip over it. Write 3. If-then plans tonight. Tape them somewhere visible. When you forget them, you will forgive and begin again. Optimism survives on restarts. Bench 4. The WOOP. Move. Wish. Outcome. Obstacle. Plan. Optimism without friction is fantasy. Add friction on purpose with a tiny exercise. Wish. Name something you want this week. Finish the first draft. Outcome. Picture the good of finishing. I'll feel clear. The team can review. Obstacle. Identify the internal obstacle, what you'll feel or do that gets in the way. I'll procrastinate when the middle gets messy. I plan, tie an if, then to the obstacle. If I stall on paragraph 3, then I write a bad placeholder sentence and move on. This blends hope with realism. It expects your humanity and designs around it. Optimism does not demand a new person. It leverages the person you already are. Bench 5. Micro-Bravery, the 5% stretch. Optimists are not fearless. They are braver by increments. They cultivate a daily 5% stretch, one action slightly bigger than comfort but smaller than drama. Email someone out of your league. Ask the disarming question in the room. Share a draft before it's perfect. Take the stairs when your mood would prefer the elevator. Why 5%? Because it's sustainable. Too much stretch and you snap. Too little and you atrophy. 5% repeated becomes a sturdy staircase. You don't need a cape. You need a calendar dotted with easy courage. Bench 6. The debrief that builds you. After a win or a loss, run a 2-minute debrief. What played? Identify 2 behaviors that helped. What cost? Name 1 behavior that hurt. What's the patch? Choose a specific upgrade for next time. Make the language mechanical, not moral. When I blocked my morning, I focused. Useful. When I skipped lunch, I crashed at 3 p.m. Cost. Patch. Calendar a 15-minute meal. Upgrade. Over months. This mechanical debrief builds a bias for iteration. Optimism thrives when you treat yourself like a project under loving maintenance. Bench 7. Red team your dream. Seatbelts and spare tires. To keep hope durable, stress test it. Invite a colleague or friend to be your red team for an idea you care about. Their job is to ask, where does this break? Your job is to answer without defensiveness, and then add seatbelts. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. If you're launching a product, what if the first 100 users hate onboarding? Seatbelt. Pre-interviews, concierge setup for early adopters. A day 1 help channel. If you're training for a race, what if you get sick in week 5? Seatbelt. Identify cross-training options and create a sick week plan in advance. If you're saving money, what if the car dies? Seatbelt. Set up an emergency fund and automate it. Optimists drive with seatbelts because they plan to keep driving, even after a skid. Bench 8. Repairing relationships the optimistic way. Cynicism thrives where repair fails. Nothing corrodes hope like unresolved friction. Consistent optimists practice clean conflicts, short, clear, kind repairs. State the slice. When the deadline moved without looping me in. Specific, not you always. Name the need. I felt out of the loop. I need advance notice so I can prioritize. Offer a bridge. Next time, can we agree to message each other the moment scope shifts? If you contributed to the mess, say so first. I dropped the ball on the timeline. That made it harder for you. I'm setting 2 check-ins next time. Optimism is not merely a mood toward the future. It is a muscle for restoring trust, so the future is a place you can go together. Bench 9, the 2-season view. Now, and next. Optimism becomes brittle when it expects a straight line. To soften it, carry 2 calendars in your head. Now the next 7, 14 days, and next, the next 3, 6 months. Make promises only to now, make direction for next. Now, 3 mornings blocked for deep work, 2 walks, 1 dinner with a friend. Next, build a portfolio, explore a lateral move, save 2 months of expenses. When a week implodes, you salvage now and preserve next by revising, not abandoning direction. Optimists aren't committed to the plan, they're committed to the direction. This is how they stay soft and stubborn at the same time. Bench 10, tending the sources, joy, meaning, beauty. A sunny mind draws from a well. When the well runs low, it doesn't shame itself, it refills. Refill with 3 kinds of water. Joy. Small pleasures that are honest and repeating, making coffee the slow way. Tinkering with a hobby, stray sunlight on a wooden table. Meaning, acts that connect you to purpose, helping a neighbor, mentoring, doing the unglamorous part of your craft with care. Beauty. Input that nourishes without asking, music that opens the chest, a walk where trees are doing tree things, language that makes you feel more human. Optimists with staying power do not wait for the world to refill them. They carry a canteen. Field notes. How optimism looks at work, at home, and alone. Let's leave the benches and visit a few rooms. At work, the project manager who reroutes. A project manager named Lena is told her team's budget is cut by 30%. Her chest tightens. She runs the 3-beat reset. Sense, jaw, name, fear. Next, open a doc. She writes an optimist ledger. Facts. Budget cut 30%. Deadline unchanged. Team at 5 people. Interpretations were set up to fail. Leadership doesn't care. Levers, prioritize scope, propose a phased rollout, request a deadline negotiation, reassign tasks to match strengths, create a visible risk dashboard. She schedules a meeting. Instead of arriving with fire, she brings shape. We can deliver A and B by the deadline with quality. C requires 6 more weeks or a reduced feature set. Here is a phased plan with risks and mitigations. Leadership blinks. This is not cheerleading. It's clarity. Weeks later, the team ships A and B. C lands in phase 2. Lena's optimism was not a pep talk. It was a set of levers pulled in sequence. At home, the couple who writes weather reports. Evan and Noor keep arguing at 7 p.m. The tired hour when dishes, emails, and leftover work collide. They adopt a 2-minute ritual called weather reports. Each evening one says, "Weather? Weather?" The other gives a forecast, not a story. Low energy, medium patience, high need for quiet. The listener responds with a plan. Copy. I'll handle dishes if you put the kid to bed. Let's talk travel plans Saturday morning when our brains work. They still fight sometimes, but their home becomes less a court and more a newsroom. Facts are separated from interpretation. Roles are negotiated with respect. Optimism here is a logistics upgrade born of love. Alone, the artist in a year of rejection. Kaya, a painter, gets 7 rejections in 3 months. She grieves a day each time, no skipping, no bravado. She also runs a win file, a folder containing kind emails, small sales, notes from people whose lives her work touched. The win file is not delusion, it is data. On Sundays she conducts a debrief. What played? INDLE hours kept, new color study. What cost? Avoided outreach. Patch? 2 submissions per week before noon, regardless of mood. Pair with a quick low-stakes sketch to keep joy alive. 2. By winter, she sells one piece to a small gallery. The joy is real, but not the point. The point is that she found a way to keep painting with her heart unarmored and her schedule armatured. Optimism is the permission to keep making, stitched to the discipline that makes keeping possible. The obstacles optimists expect. An answer. Even the best workshop hears the wind. Here are 5 common gusts and how steady optimists brace. The myth of the optimist personality. You may believe optimism is baked into birth. It's not that simple. Baselines vary, yes, but behavior changes baselines. Think of optimism as cardio. Your heart may start weaker or stronger than someone else's, but training improves capacity. Answer. Stop comparing lungs. Start walking. Keep walking. Toxic positivity. Bypassing pain in the name of hope erodes trust first others then your own. Answer. Tell the truth first. This hurts. I'm scared. Then choose one lever. Acceptance and agency aren't enemies, they're teammates. Catastrophe media. Your feeds have a business model that profits from your arousal. Answer. Curate ruthlessly. If an account leaves you smaller, mute it. Replace doom with learning. Replace mockery with craft. Replace outrage with a call. Perfection as a stall tactic. The line, "I'm not ready," often hides a fear of being seen in progress. Answer. Publish unfinished on purpose in safe spaces. Build a life where drafts are normal. Isolation. Hard seasons make you want to disappear. Disappearing makes hard seasons worse. Answer. Schedule companionship like medicine. If friendship feels too big, start with responsibly warm strangers. A writing group. A climbing gym. A volunteer shift. The nervous system heals in company. A 30-day optimism sprint. No heroics required. Try this as a complete experiment, no identity stakes. Just curiosity. You're not becoming an optimist. You're running a sprint. Week 1. Stabilize the basics. Sleep. Set a non-negotiable window. Move. 20 minutes per day. Water and light. Start mornings with both hydration and a walk. Journal. End each day with a 2-sentence evening sweep. What tested me? How I responded well. Week 2. Train attention. Morning. Write the question. What might go right today, and how can I increase the odds? Midday. The 3-beat reset once, even if you don't need it. Night. List 3 specific gratitudes that include a cause. Because the meeting moved, I had quiet time to prepare. No. Week 3. Build agency. Ledger. Run one optimist ledger for a sticky problem. If. Then. Install 3 plans where you usually stall. Micro-Bravery. 5% stretch daily. Record it. Week 4. Strengthen belonging and purpose. Red team. Invite feedback on something you care about and install 1 seatbelt. Repair. Attempt 1 clean conflict repair you've been avoiding. Service. Do one thing that helps someone move forward. Introduce 2 people. Review a resume. Share your notes. At the end, debrief. What played? What cost? What patch stays? Keep the 2 or 3 practices that felt like levers. Forget the rest, for now. You can always return to the workshop. The science whispered simply, without jargon. You don't need a research degree to use what researchers keep finding. Here's the plain English version of several robust findings. Expectations influence effort. When you believe there's a point to trying, you try more. Trying more increases the chance you hit something good. This is not magic. It's statistics applied to behavior. Labeling feelings reduces their heat. Naming is a form of handling. The part of your brain that panics quiets when another part says, "We know this one." And gratitude shifts attention. Not because the world changes, but because you do. The brain reinforces the pathways it uses. Notice more good, and you will notice more good. You also notice more bad when you train for it. Choose your training. Social proof matters. See someone you respect risk publicly, and your own fear loses a little altitude. That's why circles of trying are powerful. Sleep, food, and movement alter mood. The body is not a truck that carries the brain around, it's the symphony hall. Tune the hall, the music improves. You don't have to believe any of this to begin. The proof will be in your calendar, your posture, your email drafts, your tone when you say goodnight. A letter to the part of you that's tired. I want to speak to the version of you who reads all this and sighs. The one who has done the work before, who has worn hope like a jacket through rain that did not stop, who has forgiven and tried again and gotten quiet because trying in public is embarrassing when outcomes refuse to cooperate. You are not wrong to be tired, but you are also not finished. Optimism is not a statement about weather. It is a statement about you, that you will keep bringing your small lantern to the dark hallway and your tools to the table that wobbles. There is dignity in that. There is beauty. You do not need to roar. You can whisper, next right thing, and let your feet understand. The long view, seasons and seeds. In gardens, nothing is always. There is only season. Even evergreen trees have their quieter months. People who age into a trustworthy optimism know this in their bones. They plant in spring, tend in summer, harvest in autumn, rest and repair in winter. They don't curse winter for being winter. They stack firewood and read books. They write letters that will germinate in someone else's spring. A young woman named Naima once told me her grandmother's rule. When life is too heavy to lift, carry a handful. The handful might be a walk around the block, one careful email, a shower, an apology, a nap. Optimism is carrying the handful and then another, until one day you notice you are carrying an armful, and the season has changed while you were busy doing honest work. Final assembly, a simple manifesto. If you would like a pocket-sized summary, a way to hold this book in 8 lines, here it is. Tell truer stories that preserve your ability to act. Aim your attention like a craftsperson. Care for the body that carries your mind. Curate the company that curates you. Install small, repeatable levers. If, then. Ledger's Micro-Bravery. Put seatbelts on your hopes. Repair quickly and concretely. Make your optimism serve a purpose bigger than mood. Tape it above your desk or inside your journal. Let it get coffee stains. Let it travel. 1. Last walk. Let's visit Theo again, years after the puddle and the bus. He's slower now. The cane taps a rhythm on the sidewalk that used to be faster. In his coat pocket, there's a folded paper. On it, scrawled in a hand, grown charmingly shaky, are the 5 lenses from Chapter 1 and the 8 lines from this manifesto. He carried them at first because he wanted to remember. He carries them now because he likes the feel of them. The paper is soft with use, like a river stone that tells you where the river goes. A teenager rushes past, nearly colliding, murmurs an apology that is more airflow than word. Theo smiles. He thinks, temporary, specific, influenceable. Temporary. The almost collision is already over. Specific. 1 corner, 1, hurried kid. Influenceable. He can choose his next sentence. He turns toward the boy and says, "Hey, nice save." The kid looks up, surprised, and laughs. The laugh travels down the block. A sparrow moves on the branch above them, switching feet, undecided between hush and flight. The light is ordinary and perfect in the way ordinary light is when you remember to look at it. People pass, carrying their private wars and weddings. Somewhere, a bus sends up a fan of water that doesn't touch them. Somewhere, a letter is arriving that will change the week. Somewhere, a person who had decided to quit is writing one more paragraph, and someone else is listening to a friend without trying to fix the friend. Theo continues walking. He will drink soup later, and it will be good. He will call his daughter, and her voice will lengthen his day. Tonight he will write 2 sentences in a notebook, one about something that tested him, one about how he responded well. He will not call it optimism, he will call it living. And you, before you close this page, choose a headline. Make it temporary, specific, and influenceable. Choose 1 lever. Tape 1 note where your future self can't miss it. Send 1 message. Drink water. Step outside and let your eyes find distance so your thoughts can. 2. The sky will not always be friendly. But you do not need friendly sky to begin. You need a lens, a bench, a handful, and the stubborn kindness to keep practicing. That is why some people are consistently optimistic. Not because their weather is better, because their workshop is open.